Saint Joseph is almost unique among the saints in that when we see images of him in art, almost no other saint is ever asleep. But Saint Joseph often is. And a priest once told me that Saint Joseph did his best work while asleep, which is a funny way of expressing it, but there is something very true about that statement. It doesn't mean that Saint Joseph didn't work hard. He was, after all, a carpenter in the ancient world, and that's a very strenuous type of work. And it doesn't mean that Joseph didn't do anything important while awake, because even aside from his job, he also took Mary and Jesus to Egypt and back. He kept them safe through all the difficult travels and dangerous travels of caring for his pregnant wife on the way to Bethlehem, of that trip back and forth across the lands of Judah to get to Egypt. Now, what the priest had in mind was that the most important thing about St. Joseph was his ability and his openness to listen for God's voice and to follow God's plan. It was this that allowed him to do something world-changing in becoming the stepfather of God. He was able to recognize when the angel was sent to him and was willing to accept the voice of God without questioning, without worrying, without trying to figure out how it all makes sense, but just knowing this is what he was being asked to do, and so being willing to do that. That really is incredible. I think all of us much rather to, have it all figured out, get understood, and then decide if this is really what God is asking us. But the fact that St. Joseph receives that message in a dream means that he couldn't stop and ask the angel as Mary could. Well, what does this mean? How can this be? He just had to accept it at face value and move on. And it really is incredible that he did. And what that means for us is that we need to make sure that we are imitating St. Joseph, that we are focused less on doing things and more listening for what God is calling on us to do and who He created us to be. In our prayer, we have to be open to being guided by His plan, even if sometimes we don't understand what that plan is or how God is working through things we might not quite think are, the way He should be working. Only then will we accomplish truly great things, when it is not our will, our plans, our ideas, but God's. So I invite you this Advent, what little of it is left, and throughout your lives, to set some time aside for listening to the voice of God in your prayer, in your reflection, in the words that people speak, even in the thing that comes to you in a dream. It might be the most important work of your whole life, but we can only accept it if we are listening for the voice of God.